Anybody, anywhere,
It's time to take command.
The Cardiac Commanders are the Clutch Commanders!
With former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen.
This pass caught by Paulsen, the tight end.
And from 106.7 The Fan, Grant Paulsen.
Welcome into Take Command after a Commanders 27-10 win over the Chargers. Logan Paulsen is back. He's got notes. He has watched the tape. We'll have his film review. I'm Grant Paulsen. Of course, we are here 3 days a week. We are with you for our film review, a film preview of the upcoming opponent, and then Sundays we do a live breakdown right after the game. You can catch me on 106.7 The Fan from 2 to 6:30 every day on Grant and Danny. Watch the show, 106.7 The Fan or Team 980 YouTube. Subscribe, rate, review, wherever you get your audio. Logan, that was a heck of a road win, man. You got punched in the mouth, tasting blood, spit it out, and swung back. And 27 unanswered later, Washington responded with a huge win.
Yeah, I mean, it felt pretty dire there. I mean, through most of the first quarter, right? You're like 10-0. They're going down to drive, go maybe potentially score a touchdown. And it felt 13-0, 17-0. Started feeling a little bit insurmountable the way the offense was producing and the way the defense was kind of struggling in terms of slowing the LA offense down. But again, like, football is such a funny game in that it just takes one play, really, to get you kind of back in it. And like everyone talks about, analytics nerds always talk about the momentum and how it's not a real thing. But I'm telling you, man, like, on the sideline, you can feel it. You feel it when it happens. And I know there's maybe no way to quantify it, which is why it's so hard to talk about. But you just felt like after that Quan Martin forced fumble, which he really did a nice job with, that something was different in the air. And then the offense comes out. They've kind of got their feet, kind of found their sea legs. Jane Daniels looks like he's in rhythm and goes down. And then after a really, quite frankly, a disastrous first quarter, it's 7-10. You're in the ball game. It's like, all right, here we go. And I thought there was something really special about that resiliency that the team showed.
Yeah, I give them so much credit because watching the game at times, it felt like the Chargers were shooting themselves in the foot, or like bad Chargers more than good Commanders. But when you watch it back, what I realized was with every opportunity they were gifted, they took great advantage. Yeah. And that's a skill. I mean, you don't have to do that. Not everybody does, right? But like, the fumble is forced. Quan Martin makes a play. It's not like Quentin Johnson just has the ball pop out. But, you know, when you have a 3rd and 15 and a 4th and 15 and you're punting from your own end zone, you don't really do anything to get the benefit of a roughing the punter to keep a drive alive that negates a 57-yard touchdown to go down 17-7 and swing the whole pendulum. But on the next play, you hit on a 50-yard completion and you make another throw to Debo, and now it's a field goal and it's 10-10. So time and time again, you know, the Commanders' defense is facing a 2nd and 1, and the Chargers pretty easily pick it up with a run, but there's a penalty. So now it's a 2nd and 6. Well, they hit Justin Herbert incomplete. Then on 3rd and 6, they get a sack to force a field goal. Like, they took advantage of all of the open doors that the Chargers provided. They walked through, I thought.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Obviously, like, the roughing the kicker thing is like kind of this miraculous swing there. You know, it feels like the Chargers have all the momentum, but, you know, that is a penalty. It was roughing the kicker. And then for you to go out and capitalize on it. I mean, they still had to go on a pretty significant drive there to get points out of that thing. They had a chunk play, 2 chunk plays, kick a field goal. I mean, that's good ball, man. And again, like, it comes off of a mistake by the Chargers, but that's football. And I do think that there was a lot of penalties called against the Chargers. Like, the one sequence that comes to mind is like when they're backed up and Justin Herbert is literally making probably 3 of the best throws I've seen in person all year, just back to back to back to back. And then they all get called back because of offensive penalties. The thing I will say is the Commanders are kind of forcing those, right? Dorrance Armstrong forces a holding call. Then Pipkins gets back up off the football a little bit, right? Because he's worried about the pass rush. There's another penalty that negates a big play. Like, they are kind of forcing through a lot of pressure in this case as a pass rusher, but just in pressure from the defense in general, mistakes from the Chargers too, which I think is something that, like, needs to be acknowledged. Yes, did they get lucky with the roughing the kicker? Absolutely. But I think they also kind of made some of their own luck as the game went on and were able to kind of negate some of those Chargers explosive plays.
Yeah, and the Chargers were also as advertised on their offensive line. I mean,
oh my gosh, yeah.
it was so bad, and they lost more in the game injury wise. That the sequence that I'll just never forget that was so comical was they had a 2nd and 19, and Herbert makes this ridiculous throw, and they get 24, and there's a penalty, and so it's okay. Well, now it's 2nd and 29, and they get 31 on a better throw. And it's, first of all, Washington. We'll get to this.
This is the sequence I'm talking about, by the way. Like this,
Yeah,
is
I know.
the sequence. Like,
Yeah, exactly. But like, it's just like, to me, it's kind of one of these things, Logan, where it's so staggering, where you're like, I can't believe this, But like, they kept giving up the plays, and defensively, we'll talk about, was it good Washington defense? Was it, basically bad Chargers offense? And the answer might be yes sometimes. But let's isolate the offense first. Let's get into that, because I thought there was a lot of good to pick apart here. First, Jaden Daniels is back. 15 of 26 for 231. Throws an unbelievable touchdown to Debo, lofted ball into the end zone at the end of the game. Some particulars here: 9 of 12 for 96 yards between the line of scrimmage and 10 air yards. So he feasted kind of short by the line of scrimmage, but also very effective down the field. 6 completions on 11 attempts for 135 yards and a score as they pushed the ball 10 plus. He had 3 designed runs. You and I both thought that would be a big part of the game plan. The Chargers actually did way better than we anticipated, -1 on those runs, but he scrambled 5 times for 40 yards, about 8 yards per carry. What did you see from Jaden Daniels? What did you think of him in his return?
Yeah, I mean, I think he started a little slow. I think I actually was surprised with how much man coverage they played on early downs in the game. I think quite frankly, it looked like so were the Commanders to a certain extent. I think when we talked about the preview show, the Chargers, they did throw a little bit of man, but they played predominantly zone. So a lot of Tampa 2, a lot of quarters, a lot of light box structures. And I think they came out and ran, I want to say it was like, of the first 9, the 3 and outs, I want to say they ran probably 3 or 4 snaps of man coverage on early downs, which was a little surprising. But I think once they kind of had a feel for what was going on, once they had a feel for what the Chargers wanted to do, and quite frankly, once the Chargers started getting back into kind of their traditional zone coverages, Jane Daniels just looked right at home. And I think the thing that really stuck out to me is he kind of made, I forget what the first play was, I don't remember off the top of my head, but he kind of made the first completion, big chunk play, and then I felt like he was there. I think it was the completion to Jalen Lane on that.
Yeah, it was the 3rd and 16 that he drove into the seam to Lane, and it kind of changed the whole deal.
Yeah, and I just felt like after that, everyone says, "Oh, we saw Jaden from last year," and I do think there are elements to that. I thought there was a playmaking ability that just like was special, and the thing that makes him special. Like, again, the Chargers pass rush wasn't as effective as I think the Chargers were hoping it would be, but Daniel's ability to kind of evade a rusher, push out to his right, Debo Samuel's on like this 3 receiver dig concept, is able to escape, find that, hit the ball there. The touchdown late in the game, the ability to extend that play, hit the ball to Debo down for the touchdown, I think is special. And so you saw, like, I think the elevation that he brings to the offense. And again, I thought Marcus played really, really well in Jaden's absence, but there's just another element to the offense, his ability as a scrambler. Like, there's a couple times on that last drive where they're trying to run a boot, right? And Ben Sinnott's in a bad spot, or John Bates is in a bad spot, doesn't quite get the down block on the end. The end's in perfect position to make the tackle. He kind of pump fakes like he's going to throw it, is able to scramble forward for a 7-yard gain on 1st and 10, or it was 2nd and 10. And then all of a sudden you're in like 3rd and 3. And I just thought to myself, like, that's the thing that changes this offense. Like, that call is a good call. It wasn't executed correctly. It looks like a dead play. I remember sitting on the sideline watching, thinking like, man, that's done. But Jaden Daniels elevates it and gets you in good down and distance. So I thought that ability to elevate the offense became more and more apparent as the game went on. I think it did take him a minute to find his sea legs, but I think once he found his feet, the accuracy, the playmaking ability, the ability to elevate the offense all came to the forefront in a way that was really exciting to watch, quite frankly.
Yeah, there were a few different plays that he didn't make that I thought were either 2024 Jaden Daniels or just special kind of plays. The throw to Chris Moore in the back of the end zone, where Moore doesn't make the catch, but it's a perfect ball at the end of an extended play, kind of on the run. Like, that's really, really unique. There's only a handful of guys in the league that are making that throw that accurately in that spot. I actually loved the throw he made on a PBU at the goal line to Deebo Samuel earlier in the game. It was like this lobbed lollipop throw where it was like tight man coverage down the sideline, and out of his hand, I'm going, well, this is a dead play. And 99% of the time, you just see a ball like sailed over the guy into the end zone. And he just threw this ball that was very catchable, back shoulder kind of.
Probably should have been PI, right? That's the one you're talking about.
It looked like it, yeah. It looked like it was. And I think maybe even part of the design of throwing it the way he did, because you saw later in the game, he kind of underthrew a ball almost by design, got a flag coming back toward it. But yeah, I think that it was one of those games where I thought he was better than even the box score, and the box score was really good. But early on, I saw some rust. I thought it seemed like he was kind of trying to get into the flow for a couple of drives. And once they started getting the run game going, and really that 3rd and 16 conversion to Jalen Lane right after a play where I thought he waited way too long to throw it to him and missed him, kind of got the whole thing going. And he just looked like a different guy. And then the second half, I thought he was awesome. Let's get to the running game. The Bill game. I got what I wanted, man. I got what I've been begging for.
During the broadcast, I kept thinking about you. I mean, I'm like, Grant's probably pumped right now.
I mean, we got all the carries, and we got, until the very last drive where he had gotten his 100 and was on the bench. Basically, the full running back workload for Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and he rewards them. Over 100 yards, 111 on 14 attempts. He ends up with 39 receiving yards in the game as well. They did a good job twice getting him in space as a receiver. Once on a little center running back screen that was perfectly designed. That was like, it's like watching a hit and run in baseball. That was, lock the bathroom doors and turn off the lights. Watch that one. That was fun. And then you had the little swing pass out to him on the edge. So he goes for $150 in the game. Welcome to the Bills show, Logan.
Yeah, but I think it's important. Like, Bill is a special runner. We've talked about that ad nauseum on this show. I do think the blocking surface played exceptionally well in this game. And I think Cliff and Coach Johnson did a really good job understanding how to manipulate the Chargers into certain looks. And the Chargers played certain fronts that I thought, why would you ever do that versus a team that likes to run the football as much as the Washington Commanders? And they were able to take advantage of it. Like the first big explosive counter run that they have, it's John Bates on a combination with Josh Connerly, and they're just throwing number 45 Tuilopu out of the club right up to the linebacker. They have great angles. The safety's rotating down to fill this crease that's off the Chris Paul kick out, and Ben Sinnott just comes up and absolutely drills that safety in the face. Safety's on the ground, and
that was an awesome block. That was the first. That was like the 7-yard run to start the game, basically.
It was like I think it was the third rush of the game.
Yeah.
Second or third rush of the game. And Bill does not get touched on that play until he's probably 10 yards down the field about, you know what I'm saying? Like
how about he had 2 untouched gallops into the end zone where he still hasn't been touched. I mean, I think the number I heard was 59 rushing yards before contact in this game. Obviously a season high for a Commander, but that just means, to your point, you are owning the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and like it was really, and so again, like I'm not trying to detract from what Bill did here, but like Amari and Hampton, I thought had a really good game and broke a bunch of tackles and ran hard and got downhill, but he's fighting for his life. He can't get anything going because again, like we'll talk about this when we get to defense, but Kinlaw and Payne, they're just having really dynamic performances. But Bill is special. Like there's the one where Derwin James almost rips his head off and he breaks the tackle and bounces out to the side, and Luke McCaffrey blocks 2, and it's just this incredible effort for him to kind of make, I think it was probably a 25-yard run.
27 yards, along with the day.
But there was a bunch of stuff where I'm like, he's not even getting touched, you know what I mean? And he is doing and again, the offensive line, they're trying to close the game out. He gets a nice little 10-yard run on this bounce concept where they're pulling to the perimeter. He stretches it, so good job feeling it, and then gets right downhill, and his burst and acceleration are tremendous. But there's hats on hats, man. And like no one's touching him. And so I do think like while Bill deserves a lot of credit for the performance, like the offensive line, the tight ends, Trent Scott, John Bates, Ben Sinnott, the receivers, they're all playing well. And it's cool to see a team adopt this run first mentality, because the one thing about running the football that's different than the pass game is it takes all 11. It takes everybody doing their thing. And I think that's a great thing about it. And I'm going to say even the 12th guy is the play caller. And for, Cliff to kind of throw in some of these little trick dick, like, hey, we're in Wildcat. We're going to play the zone read game. We're going to hit the counter to the left off of a Debo Samuel fake here. Like, that's good stuff, man.
How about we got a true option on a third down in this game?
They love that. They love that play in third and short situations versus man coverage and like all out pressure, because it really does a great job getting them to the perimeter. But yeah, it was a great call.
I saw another play that they'll come back to, I bet, but I have asked for this for years as just like a football fan, which is teams underutilize like the rugby lateral kind of essentially. And it's become more in vogue with some of these coordinators where it's somewhat dangerous, but if you throw it to the short side of the field toward the sideline, a lot of times, like worst case scenario, it's going out of bounds. But I noticed it wasn't quite an option, but it's almost like that. Did you see there was a play where it was like Jaden, I think it was a designed run off the edge, but basically they had Debo like drop back from his wide receiver position, almost like you're getting like a bubble screen. But it's while Jaden's running, and he had the ability to basically throw like an in-play lateral to him. He didn't. He kept the football. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. I think that was kind of an odd play design too, the way he kept it, because the tackle's blocking out and he kind of runs around the edge there. I wonder if that was the play was called correctly there. But yeah, I do think
Don't you think they could come back to that as like this looks like Jaden off tackle. Oh, wait, he just threw it to Debo and now he's running through someone for 7-8 yards.
Well, dude, that's the whole thing. Like, I want to say it was 2 years ago, and college football, this is huge. It's like the natural triple option, right? So we've got the back, the quarterback. We're reading the end man line of scrimmage. He squeezes, right? I pull it. And then now we're reading the next element. We're reading that hook defender. If he attacks the quarterback, they're going to be short to the receiver screen. I just kind of pitch it out there. We used to do that with Kyle when Robert Griffin was here. It's a really good play. And I think maybe conceptually you think of it more as like both receivers blocking, the tight ends running the flat. Like that's the one that people probably recognize a little bit more in terms of the true triple option. But I've seen variations where the receiver's the guy that's kind of popping back. You're creating this horizontal stretch. You can get the ball out to him. So I think that's going to be something that's yeah, I definitely think they can get to it as Jaden gets more comfortable with it.
Well, they just keep adding wrinkles and things off of plays earlier in games and earlier in weeks. And I mean, Cliff really deserves a lot of credit for this run game, because I just think he's constantly in his bag. Like you think you figure out what they're going to do, and then they do something off of it.
Well, I think that's the thing. Again, I say this every time we do this show, the review show. I'm just so impressed with the amount of volume they can seemingly carry. And again, like, the way they're able to disguise, like, it's maybe they don't carry that much volume. I don't know. It'd be interesting to talk to somebody about how many plays they actually have. But the illusion of volume every week seems incredible. Like the fact that we have installed, repped, and then executed this Wildcat play is mind-boggling to me, because like people think, oh yeah, you just put that in, just draw that up on the board, and they know how to run it. You need to rep that thing. You need to take time and make sure that we're repping that stuff. So I don't know. It's just their ability to get to those unique looks, and then the way they're able to disguise counter, to disguise the GT, to disguise bounce with front formation shift motion every week is just a testament to the staff and a testament to the players that they can handle that kind of turnover each week. So really, really impressive. And yeah, man, like, again, I know I say it every week, but I offensively, like, I just come away being like, this is really well designed, really well thought out, and enough variety to keep defenses guessing.
By the way, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt leading the NFL right now with 6.6 yards per carry, like he's in the Big South or something.
Dude, no kidding.
Meanwhile,
like he's playing like freaking, who does New Mexico even play? Like, can't even tell you.
That's a good question. UTEP, why not?
Yeah, the old the Miners, right?
Right.
They're
Played
really
a season high 49% of offensive snaps in this game. So he was up to about half of the time on the field. Previous high was around 39.6% of snaps in week 3. So the role is growing. Obviously, the target share, the carry share grew substantially as well. But notably here, this is not just a yards per attempt thing. He is also now leading the NFL in rushing yards over expected per carry. It's like how many more he's getting than is blocked up and schemed up, plus 2.2 per carry, and rushing success rate. So based on down and distance, how close to the sticks you're getting, he's successful 60% of the time. So, I mean, this has been by a lot of statistical measures, one of, if not the best back in the league carrying the football to this point this season. There's obviously a lot of credit to go around. One other thing on offense we should hit on, in addition to the big Bill game, is another heavy workload for Debo. No Terry McLaurin, no Noah Brown. Nobody else in the passing game had more than 2 targets. Okay, there were 8 guys that had 1 or 2 targets. Debo had 11 of them. 8 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Very busy, very productive day. The passing game is going through Debo Samuel.
Yeah, which I think is, again, a testament to the relationship that they built during training camp. Obviously while Terry's working through the contract stuff, because you can just tell Jaden has a lot of comfort in him. They're just as an example, there's a play early in the game where Jalen Lane's running like a high cross. They're running what I would call a pylon route to the offensive right. So like a deep corner, high angle corner. And then Jalen Lane's running a high cross, and he kind of gets across the middle, but slows down, feels like he's open, and Jaden puts the ball out in front of him, and it's incomplete. And you can just tell they haven't banked a lot of reps on that. You can tell it's Jaden doesn't know exactly how the receiver's reading that route concept. And then you get the same route concept later, or a very similar route concept with Debo running it, and Jaden's able to just put that ball right where it needs to be because he trusts the angle of departure. He trusts the velocity that Debo's working at. And that just comes with all the reps they were able to bank during camp. And the other thing that I think is really important to point out here is the ability of Debo to take a little pre-snap run screen and turn it into 10 yards. So I forget what was the total rushing yards for the team? It was like 150 something, 160.
Yeah, they went 163 net.
Yeah, and but I think they're about 200 because Debo's catching these little screens off of run action away, and to me, those are runs, right? Like those are just really cool ways to get good number counts to the perimeter, and Debo Samuel's ability to get his shoulders square and break tackles. Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, more blocking on the perimeter. They did a great job, but that element to the offense is just such an easy button for the quarterback. It's like, hey, let me just count this up. I like the screen look. Boom, Debo's got it. And then I don't even need to think about it because he always finds a way to get at least 4 on him. So to me, it's like the same thing as if I wanted to run a little zone read, run a little inside zone, get the ball to him, and he did a great job with that. So in addition to the explosive element, there's a down-to-down consistency that he brings.
How about Luke's catch, the 50-yarder? Couldn't have been a bigger play, by the way. It was right after the non-touchdown on the return. So instead of 17-7, it's back to 10-7, and now you flip the field on the ensuing play, 50 yards. It's an amazing throw. It's 57 air yards from Jaden Daniels, kind of on a rope. Gave him a great chance. But the catch was better. I mean, he's got Jackson wrapped around him like a blanket. He's kind of parallel to the ground. There's your RAS stuff. I mean, there's your athleticism and some of those traits that we've talked about and haven't really showed up all that often. There they were. And also the concentration, man. I mean, you know better than I do, but hanging on to that ball in that spot is unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'll talk about the catch here in a second, but also a group that needs to be shouted out. Again, we talked about them with the run game stuff is the offensive line, and just the general protection plan on that play. We get 2 chippers on the edge, great chip plan, great physical in terms of getting out of your routes. There's a 4-man rush, and Jaden has the ability they're running like a sail concept. So Zach Ertz is running like a big out basically, or like a high corner with an inside stem. And then Luke McCaffrey's running a post on the backside. You get quarters coverage from the Chargers. So the quarters player jumps this big out because of how Zach stems his route. And he's able to look to the out, feel the safety attack, and then throw the football. And it really is almost a 3-count throw in terms of timing. And again, the protection plan, the offensive line battling their butts off, allow him the opportunity to get the football down the field. And then you get to the catch. Like that ball couldn't be placed any better, right? In terms of away from the defender. But Luke's ability to get his hands extended, catch that football, first off, incredible. 9 out of 10 guys probably dropped that ball because of the defensive contact there. But the ability then to have the wherewithal to get your hands underneath the football. I mean, how many times have we seen plays like that where the receiver is bringing the ball in, hit the ground, ball's loose, and then they rule it an incomplete catch? Like that was really, really incredible. Maybe the most incredible play of the day. Quite honestly, that ability, that awareness to get the hand under the football there was fantastic. And so I look at that as just a well-executed play from snap, protection, plan, quarterback, ball, catch. It's all there. And I think that's the beauty. One of the beautiful things of football is it's never one guy, right? And that's like in basketball, you can play isolation. In hockey, you can skate the ice and hit that sick slap shot. In football, you need all 11 in a way that is so unique. And on that play, on the Bill run, you see it. And I just felt like they're playing more consistently as a team, which is really, really exciting.
2 plays later, they're pass pro on that like deep, long over where he has to clear like 3 windows and he just keeps running all the way across the field. That set up the field goal before the half. That pass protection was phenomenal. And that play took forever. And Jaden's just kind of camped out and then climbs and hitches, and he's got all day. And he ends up making a pretty easy throw to an open guy. But, that the loss there for the Chargers is on not getting to the quarterback and allowing such a long developing kind of passing play. But you saw those on a couple consecutive sequences. So kudos to the offensive front. Let's dive into the defensive performance for Washington. They scored 27 unanswered. They win by 17 on the road. They get to 3-2, first road win of the season in a game where they had a 99-yard drive for the first time in 24 years. This is Take Command. Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen with you after a win over the Chargers. Welcome back to Take Command. Time to put the spotlight on the Washington defense on a day where it was ugly early. They were down 10-0, but a couple of takeaways end up really saving their bacon, and it was the first one by Quan Martin that changed the entire day. At that point, Logan, Justin Herbert was 10 of 12 for about 100 yards. They were doing whatever they wanted in the passing game, and frankly, on the ground too. I mean, Washington had no answers. It looked a lot like the Green Bay games on the road. But then that Quan Martin forced fumble really changed everything. And the Chargers didn't score again after that, despite being at the mouth of the red zone there.
Yeah, and I think there was a couple other things. Obviously, the turnover is a huge element to that, right? And Quan deserves credit. And so we'll talk about that real quick. Quan comes down, really owns his leverage on the tackle. Was able to get in there. Amos is coming from the other way. Doesn't over pursue, doesn't over try. Really just puts his shoulder and his hat on the football. Ball comes out, they're able to recover. Great job. So I think that's one element. I think the other element, too, that needs to be acknowledged is Joe Witt Jr., I thought, did a good job of getting out of the heavy man looks, or not getting out of them because they still ran them, but disguising and mixing up the man stuff with the zone stuff. And so there's a couple times like later in the game where, it looks like they're bringing it all out. They drop to kind of a cover 2 look. Herbert holds the football because he's a little bit surprised by some of the leverages of the players. Ends up being a sack, right? Then they get back next third down. They're in a man situation. And they, I think we're kind of familiar with the AA package that they always bring here in Washington. But they did a little bit more stuff in terms of, hey, we're going to, kind of dictate the slide with Frankie Louvu. He's going to be on the ball to the left. They're going to send the slide with the center to the left. It's the man side to the right. We're going to have Jordan McGee run through to that man side of the protection, create a quick pressure, and Justin Herbert has nowhere to go. So not only was it getting out of kind of the traditional man looks that they were in early in the game where Justin Herbert has the scramble, Allen has that long catch and run up the sideline, they were able to disguise those looks a little bit more. They got the different pressure package look, different pressure patterns, and I really think it befuddled the Chargers in a way. And then obviously with the offensive line injuries, the backup group had a hard time identifying stuff. They had a lot of penalties, and Washington was able to capitalize. So I do think the turning point is kind of the catalyst, or the observationally, it seems like it's the turnover. And I think there's a big conversation as to why that is. But then I also thought Joe Wood Jr. did a good job of saying, hey, this is the pitch we always throw. Let's give him some variations. And I think it really paid dividends as the game went on.
Jordan McGee, who you mentioned, I want to circle back to. 12 snaps, 18% of their defensive plays. Noticeable, you referenced one of the plays that you flashes on tape where, he comes kind of untouched, but shot out of a cannon. The speed he showed coming downhill was awesome. He also made a big TFL on the goal line as well. And I saw him on a one swing pass out to the flat, came barreling and got a hand on a foot in a way that I'm not sure either of the other linebackers on the second level honestly make that play with the speed kind of running to the sideline. What did you notice from him? What'd you think?
Every time you talk to Dan, at least in this offseason, it's like, man, I can't wait for the fans to watch Jordan McGee play. And he's always he's got a hamstring, got a knee, kind of negotiating return to play. But I think when you see him, you feel his energy, you feel the athleticism, you feel the juice in a way, and you feel the physicality, quite frankly. Now, does he got some stuff to clean up in terms of angles to tackles? 100%, right? But I think the energy, the speed, the violence, the passion, it's all there, man. Now you just got to focus that up. And it's great that you see it's awesome to juxtapose Bobby with McGee in these situations, right? Because Bobby is just his angle is incredibly consistent. The line is incredibly consistent, right? The tackle, the fundamentals, incredible. Like I can't remember the last time I've seen Bobby straight up miss a tackle. Like he is so good at that stuff, man. Really incredible how he takes on blocks. And then you compare that to McGee, who's like flying in a way that I haven't seen Bobby run in a long time, right? Flying to the football, but the angle's a little bit off. The fundamentals on the tackle are a little bit off. And I'm just like, man, if any of that shine that Bobby brings, any of that consistency that Bobby brings rubs up on McGee, man, we're going to have a really dangerous football player because the athlete, the mentality, it just seems like it's right there for you. He's got a little ways to go. I don't want to get fans all worked up just yet, but it's cool to see that level of athleticism, that level of passion come to the field. Because, I mean, I'm sure he'd tell you, like, he was in position to make a lot of plays and kind of like missed on a couple, but like the fact you're in those positions with your athleticism and explosiveness is an exciting thing to think about this defense gaining in terms of edge.
I want to talk Marshawn Lattimore because we talk about him every week when it doesn't go well. Let's give him a little bit of credit here. 41 coverage snaps against the Chargers. Not like, he was tested a whole lot, but that can be a positive too. Assigned just 1 catch and 6 yards by Next Gen Stats. 2.4% target rate, 5th lowest in a game for him since 2018. 26.8% of his coverage snaps playing man, 10th lowest rate since 2018. So clearly the usage was a little bit different, it felt like, for him and for Washington. But he had the fumble recovery, Logan, and it was a game where, people want to beat him up every single week. Let's give him some roses here.
I think this is a good example of how when you play complementary football, it insulates guys in the back end. Like when you can't get home with 4, when you can't get home with 5, when you're not pressuring, when you're not confident in the coverage structures or in the rush you're bringing, it really stresses the quarterback. Like there's another play where Trey Amos is playing off man coverage against Keenan Allen, and his feet are in concrete, his eyes are on his work, and the second Keenan Allen stops his feet, he triggers on the football and beats the ball to the spot, punches the football out. And I just was like, I have not seen corners play with that level of confidence here in a long time. And so I think it just shows you that when the defense is playing as it should play, the rush is getting home, it keeps the coverage structure from being stressed. And so, like, it's funny, I was watching some Chicago stuff, for example, getting ready for the show today for Command Center. And one of the things that sticks out to me is, like, most coverage structures are fine for like 2.5 seconds. The second you push that out into like that 2.7, 3-second structure, you're in a tough spot. And you immediately, no matter who the defense is, you see zones start to break. You see man coverage start to get loose. And in this game, we talked about the offensive line for the Chargers and the pass rush for the Commanders, the scheme, the guys winning one-on-ones. And I think it just insulates the back end in a way that is, it's how it's supposed to work, right? So people say, oh, it's like Marshawn Lattimore played well. Yes, but this is how he should be able to play every single week, because this is how the rush should be in terms of effectiveness.
So I would push back on that a little bit to say
push
that
back, baby.
I think this is the easiest offensive front to deal with they're going to have all year long in terms of generating pressure. What I mean by that is I think it came really easily at times. Like, would I love them to get pressure at this rate, this quickly, this often? Yes. I don't think this will happen again this year, in the sense of they average 2.25 seconds time to pressure against the Chargers, 9th fastest of any team in the entire league this year, and the fastest for them. 9 of their 13 pressures were quick pressures, so that's considered under 2.5 seconds. 7 different Commanders defenders recorded at least 1 quick pressure, which is like either a free rush or an automatic win. And that to me was just a sign of they got a 3rd-string tackle, they got a 2nd-string tackle on the other side, they got a 3rd-string guard. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. It's like complimentary, but this is a one-off to me in terms of, like, if you get another one of these, it's a gift.
So let me just tell you this. So everyone talks about the pressure of the offensive line, right? I think Joe Witt Jr. was in his bag. Excuse me, I almost cussed right there.
Really?
In his bag, in the sense that like we get the way that the way teams are playing Frankie Louvu right now gives you so much advantage in terms of how you call pressure packages, right? We talked about Jordan McGee getting the free runner, right? So basically what teams are doing now, or what the Chargers did, is anytime Frankie Louvu is lined up at the edge, they send the center to Frankie, right? So if I can dictate the man side and rush to the man side with 3 and drop out Frankie Louvu to the other side, which they did a bunch in this game, you're going to get free rushers, especially if the back is free releasing, which they did a bunch in this game. So I felt like Joe Witt Jr., whoever does their blitz packages, really had a great feel for creating some of these pressures. Hey, we're in five across the front. We're going to get a 5-0 call, or like man call from the offensive line. We blitz guy through the A gap. We get a quick pressure, right? I just thought he really had a good feel for what they wanted to do from a protection standpoint and how to beat it. And so, like, you're right. Maybe they don't see this every single week, but if you have the keys to the kingdom, and this is the thing about third down to me that's philosophically important to understand, is if I can dictate protection rules, I can get a quick pressure almost every single time. Right. And so that's where you see good offenses, really good offenses, have a diverse protection plan. And Greg Roman's known for having solid offenses, but not great offenses. And I think this is one of the reasons why they struggle on third down, is because if I can dictate with a 5-man pro where the center's going, I can create a free rusher. And I thought Joe Witt Jr. did a great job of that this game. As you talk about the free rushers, I think that's what you're getting with.
So then let me ask you this. Was Atlanta not doing that to block Frankie Louvu? In other words, if they're sending the center and you're getting your one-on-ones that you're talking about, why were there 3 hits on the quarterback and 0 pressure in that game?
So I don't remember the exact pressure numbers from that game, but statistically from the year, they were way down against Atlanta for whatever reason. And I felt like it was a stylistic choice that game to be a little bit more conservative. So if you could look that up. I just remember watching the film, they had kind of gotten away from what they had been in the first couple games in terms of pressure rate. And I think you see them kind of returning to form here and saying, this is who we want to be. This is how we're going to do it. And I think the other thing that Joe Witt Jr. deserves a lot of credit for is, like, he's had a lot of success in his year and 4 or 5 games here with this double A gap pressure look with Frankie in one A gap, Bobby in the other one. And here this week, they said they have a plan for that. I think Amari Hampton did a great job blocking Bobby early on in this game in terms of the one-on-one stuff, like in a way that Bobby doesn't usually get blocked by a back. So he says, well, shoot, they've got a good plan for it. They've worked it. Their protection plan's on it for the double A gap stuff. Let's throw some of these other pitches, present some different looks while still bringing pressure. And it really paid extreme dividends for them in terms of the quick pressure looks that they were able to get. Now, guys were able to win one-on-ones, but again, the quick pressure stuff comes from the plan, which I think was really well devised by Joe Witt Jr.
Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen take command. We're looking back at a 27-10 win over the Chargers, going through the defensive performance. Lastly, the defensive line. I think we were remiss if we didn't mention Daron Payne. Javon Kinlaw, again, physical, noticeable. 3 particular plays against the run where he either stopped at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield, just blew something up. Seemed like that was kind of the tone set for the entire day, was that he and Payne were going to eat. And Johnny Newton showed up, had a tipped ball on an interception, had a sack. The edges, we knew they were going to have a big day against the worst tackle tandem they'll face probably all year long. Dorrance Armstrong had multiple sacks. Von Miller had a sack and a half. Jacob Martin had a half sack, could have had a sack and a half. He was really, really good in the game. It was kind of an everybody eats day.
So I think that's another great thing to talk about in terms of philosophy, in terms of pressure, right? Is this defense, I do feel, is good on first and second down, but they're constructed, I think, ultimately to find their production when the team is playing with a lead. And so I do think one of the reasons you're able to see more pressure, more sacks, is because Justin Herbert and the LA offense, they're forced to kind of make these plays in the passing game that they don't want to. That offense is not constructed to do that. They want to be a run, play action, insulate the offensive line type of team. And here all of a sudden now they're down 10-17, 10-20. They need to throw the football a little bit more. And you see the pressure that puts on offensive lines. Like, most offensive lines cannot tolerate a high pass volume, a high drop back volume, the way that they're forced to when they're playing from behind with not enough time. So I look at, again, the defensive line, they're able to kind of tee off. The pressure package is able to tee off. I'm really glad you brought up Kinlaw, man. Like, I really thought they utilized and spoke to his skill set at a high level in this game. One of the things I loved on first and second down is they brought a lot of line stunt off of run blitzing pressures. And that dude off of movement is unblockable. And I do think, like, one thing that Joe Witt and his staff done, Darrell Tabb, Ryan Kerrigan, whoever is responsible for this, is they've identified that he's really good at that. Because I do think when he struggles, he's like, when he's one-on-one with a base block and he's in a double team, he tends to play a little bit high, and it's hard for him to kind of sit that. When he is stunting, when he's moving, like, it's an unhittable pitch. Who's a good pitcher, Grant? Like, who's the best pitcher in baseball?
Tarek Skubal, Detroit Tigers.
And what's his best pitch?
I mean, he's got a couple of them. Whatever he throws, yeah.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, this pitch is unhittable. Like, I very rarely as a player have seen a guy that can do this line movement stuff and just, you can't block him. He's too big. He's too athletic. And you see it. It pays dividends, right? He's able to get edges, able to get tackles for loss, able to create disruption in the backfield. So to me, if I'm Joe Witt Jr., I want to do this as much as possible because it is so unsettling, so disruptive for the offense. Again, Kinlaw did a great job. Payne, you mentioned Jazon Newton. I put some stuff up on my Twitter. Like, he not only did he get the sack, but his pursuit and effort to the football is just going to lead to more production for him. So I'm really excited about that group. I thought they did a great job. Obviously, there's some stuff to clean up in terms of the Justin Herbert scramble. There's some people getting out of their rush lanes, which I think needs to be addressed in terms of kind of finding that discipline and rushing is for. But overall, I think that group is trending in the right direction.
Follow Logan on social at Logan Paulsen NFL. I'm at Grant H. Paulsen. All right, let's talk about some things they've got to clean up next on Take Command. Welcome back. Take Command stretch run here after a 17-point road victory over the Chargers. The Commanders are 3-2 as they get ready for prime time. They'll play on Monday Night Football 2 of the next 3 weeks, including against the Chicago Bears at home this coming Monday night. Logan, first off, the trip to L.A., curious. I know you're not big on going out to a restaurant and getting something to eat after you land. Did you ever get a decent meal in L.A.? Did you go out and eat like a fish or some kale or something?
So yeah, I'm from LA, so I went and saw my family and my parents, my brother, my niece, all that stuff. And so there's a restaurant, a breakfast spot out in the valley where I grew up called Brent's, which is kind of famous in the area. So I had breakfast there a couple times, and then obviously had dinner a couple times, out at local spots in the valley, but nothing in downtown LA.
So how far are you from the actual city? Because I've never thought of you as like I know you're a California guy, but I don't know the geography. I didn't think of you as like an LA guy.
Yeah, I grew up in LA County technically. So like I'm like,
no way.
The public school I would have gone to is like technically LA County public school, but I went to a Catholic high school because you got to go to private school is a bigger thing out there than it is in here in Virginia. But yeah, so I'm probably with no traffic, probably about 40 minutes from downtown. So
I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, so you were home.
Home. Yeah. Home.
Did really you get close. To go to the parents' house, hang out a little bit?
Yeah, went to the house I grew up in. And then obviously my brother's got a new house. His house burned down in the fire, but got to see his new home, which was great. So, great to just kind of check in on everybody, make sure everyone's good. And now back in Virginia. So.
Very good. All right. I just want to make sure you didn't have a carb or any sugar. That's all.
No, dude, I'm better than that.
Yeah, you would never do that. That would be absolutely crazy. Sorry to hear that about your brother. The new house is nice though.
New house is fantastic. Insurance took care of him, so that's also a plus because I know a lot of people didn't get that benefit. So he actually, it's terrible what happened, obviously, and he talks about all the stuff that he lost in the house, but healthy, happy, and insurance came through in a big way, so they're able to get a nice new house, which is awesome.
All right, that's big time. That's good. That is why we do that, the whole paying for insurance thing every single month, I guess. All right, few things I want to clean up here, rapid fire. Timeouts in the early second half are killing me. It's just every single week they do this on their first drive or second drive. And then after that, they could have burned another one. Thank God they realized finally 5 yards is not as bad as losing a timeout in the second half. But they had a sequence where they had delay of game and then almost delay of game back to back.
Yeah.
What is going on here with this stuff?
I don't know. That was a weird sequence. I'm not really sure. I don't have a good answer for you. I know sometimes after I don't remember the exact sequence, Grant. Maybe you can help me, because when you're all watching the All-22, they don't have the penalties line in there. So I'm remembering from when we watched. But it was like they got to line of scrimmage. They didn't get the playoff. Jaden like ran someplace because it was like a broken play, or maybe that was the play prior. And sometimes when the quarterback's not, he's running around like on a scramble or something, he doesn't set the huddle. It delays the process a little bit. So I remember thinking, I wonder if that had something to do with it. But now I don't remember the sequences.
So it was a 2nd and 5 from the 13. Daniels
Yep.
incomplete to Moore. It was after that rollout, like
Right.
end zone throw.
So he's running around because like they didn't get the ball.
Yeah, maybe he's a little gassed coming back, whatever. So 3rd and 5 from the 13, they get a delay of game, which in and of itself there, yes, that is 3rd and 5 to 3rd and 10 is a huge deal. That's bad. And like, that's annoying. But again, I'll take the 5 yards there over another timeout in the second half of a close game. But it was right after that where out of a timeout, the ball to McCaffrey in the end zone where they're kind of at a whack, incomplete 3rd and 10 before a gay 36-yarder. Quite literally, they should have had a delay of game probably. I mean, it was like that. It was a stale 0 on the clock, and I thought they got lucky not to get another one.
So I don't know exactly what happened, but I'll tell you, having played in the NFL and now having called games, like one of the things is when that ball gets thrown there and it looks like it's completed, sometimes your brain just thinks, oh, we got a touchdown. Now we're going for 3 as the play caller, and you're a little bit late getting the next play in. Or you're like, hey, what happened? What's going on? And they can't really see what's happening, and it's a late getting communication in there. So that's one possible explanation. 2 is Jaden Daniels maybe thinks it's a touchdown. He's running away. Oh, no, it's not in. We got to come back. So I do think the play prior affects the subsequent play.
Smart.
Definitely.
Yeah,
but,
that makes sense.
And like you see that with delay of game sometimes where there's like a little bit, did we get the first down? Did we not? Where's the ball placed? All that kind of stuff. The next one, I actually thought the refs didn't wind the clock correctly. That was my initial take from the sideline. But again, they got the playoff, thank God. But I do think like just being aware, like when you're in a moment like that, the play call has to be immediate, right? So if there's any delay in communication from up top, any delay from the coordinator, quarterback's not ready, quarterback mishears it, it makes it really hard to be on schedule. And I think like that's something maybe fans who have never been in an NFL huddle don't understand is it seems like, oh, you have plenty of time. You have 40 seconds. But to get the thing called in the huddle, executed to the line of scrimmage, it takes a little bit more time than you think. So if there's any kind of wrinkle in that, it can lead to that stuff. So I'm not trying to give them an excuse, but I do think that sequence was a little bit funky, and it might have thrown a wrench in the plan there.
I am looking for insight. You're providing insight. I will accept the insight. How about the slow start on the road again? I mean, it's 3 for 3 here, where Green Bay was a mess, Atlanta was a mess, and then the early part of this game was a shabingus. Now, you get a pass on this one because clearly that they were ready to go and they were prepped, and after they made a couple of adjustments, they punched back. But does that worry you at all? Like, you've been in a lot of locker rooms. There is a trend here where they've played 3 road games, and at least out of the chute, they have looked not as ready as the other team when the game started.
And I think a big part of that, and maybe this is my offensive player bias, is like when the offense comes out slow, you really, really, really run the risk of this happening because you put a ton of stress on the defense, right? So like I know like people say, oh, the defense has got to play better, whatever. And the defensive guys will probably say, yeah, we got to get 3 and outs. And like it's so funny when I talk to Kedrick at Stonebridge, right? You know, he does the post-game pod. One of the things I'm always saying is like, we can't put you guys in that position. He's always saying, we can't put you guys in that position. And that's taking extreme ownership. But as an offensive player, I understand that if we go 3 and out, the defense just got off the field. We're giving the ball right back to them, the opposing team's offense with good field position. It's not a recipe for success for defensive football at any level. So what I would say is like I do think the offense finding a way to be more efficient in that opening sequence is going to be important. Like I look at, just because I was watching the Bears, I actually think they're really efficient in the opening script. Because you can tell, like, what's the guy's name? Ben Johnson does a good job of, like, scripting those first 15. Same thing with Kyle, scripting the first 15. I'm not saying that they don't do that here, but really making sure that that is clean. So you get at least 5 to 7 plays executed, I think is really important. Not necessarily for offensive production, but just to alleviate some of the pressure on the defense. So I think that's one thing I would point to is, like, just can we be a little bit more efficient on that opening drive? Because if you think about it, the opening drive in Atlanta, 3 and out. The opening drive here, 3 and out. The opening drive in Green Bay, 3 and out. As long as it's not 3 and out Let's get 5 plays executed. Let's get 7 plays executed.
But the defense is allowed to get a 3 and out too.
They are allowed to get a 3 and out, but I think when you look statistically, this is an offensive driven league. I say this to Fred Smoot all the time and he gets all hot about it. Same thing with Fletch, but the deck is tipped in favor of the offense, right? So anytime we give the opposing team's offense good field position, more bites at the apple, just general opportunity, like that's unfair to the defense, I feel, as an offensive
Which is definitely
player.
the trend of the league now. Possessions are starting at the 30 to 40. You know, you're with the way kickers are kicking, you're 15 yards from field goal range. That's true.
So for me, it's like we got to offensively put that group in a better spot to be successful. Because again, let's say they give up a touchdown on the opening drive, hypothetically, right? They need time to make corrections, make adjustments, talk through certain looks, talk through what kind of the offensive coordinator is trying to attack. And if we go 3 and out, they don't get that time to coach that up and make those corrections or right back on the field before any kind of change can be affected. So I think that's something that comes to mind when I see that. It's like it just allows the tempo of the game to slow a little bit with a little bit more offensive efficiency. And I know that they're all working on getting that done over there, and that's at the forefront of mind. But that's something that just as an offensive player, I would point to and say I think that would be helpful in terms of starting a little bit quicker.
Logan Paulsen, Grant Paulsen take command. All right, next time you hear from us will be Thursday. We'll have a preview pod going into Monday Night Football with the Chicago Bears and Ben Johnson, who is coming to town, was a head coaching candidate here in D.C. when Dan Quinn got the job, now a head coach for the first time in the league with Caleb Williams. That's the big storyline. Again, Caleb Williams, the number 1 pick with Jaden Daniels, went number 2, rematch of last year's home game that ended in a Hail Mary from Daniels to Noah Brown. And good news, sounds like Terry McLaurin and Noah Brown are on the mend and may well both be back in this game. Scary to think about how good this offense could be with more playing time for Jalen Lane and for Luke McCaffrey. So those guys have come on a little bit. They're playing better. You got this unbelievable running game going with the league leader in yards per attempt. In Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, the O-line's playing well, and now you get a couple weapons back in the passing game. Could be scary. But we'll talk about that a little bit later in the week. For Logan and our producer, Evan, I'm Grant saying so long. Thanks for checking us out on Take Command.